All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin.
Hey, we are back. 6 a.m. Sydney time, 7 p.m. UK time. We've got RJ, we've got Taron. I mean, we keep grinding. That's what we do. We love this club, and that's why we keep grinding. Straight up to my man, RJ. Good morning. How you doing?
Oh, fantastic, Miz. Always a pleasure to be welcome back on the other side of the coin. And as you said, good morning to us fellow Australians and those down under, and good evening to our guests and fans across the ditch over in the UK.
Absolutely, and all over the world as well. I notice lots of people comment, where they're from, which is fantastic. And, there's people from Indonesia, from Malaysia, Ghana, Canada, so many different fans all over the world. Taron, my boy, how you doing?
Yeah, from the other side of the ditch, it's actually quite a nice day today. The weather's getting a bit better recently in the UK. And yeah, everything's going good. Chelsea are winning. Thomas Tuchel's here. The party's all going on. And lockdown restrictions are going to be eased soon in the UK. Back to college. Everything's good. Everything's happy.
Brilliant. And shout out to the live chat, the people that are already on, and the people that will be on, and the people that are going to watch it after the stream is over down the track. Massive shout out to you all. Honestly, you guys are the ones that keep the whole show entertaining. So today's topic, once again, to the live chat, join in, put your comments in, and get into the whole show, because it just makes it so much better. And there are certain times where I miss out on things that you guys pointed out, which helps out for the discussion. So, guys, today, quite a few things to talk about. We want to talk about the whole 6-6 partnership, look at Jorginho separately, Kovacic separately, Kante separately, and then look at which combination, is the best combination right now, and moving forward with the particular fixtures that are coming up, and also look at whether any of these combinations are good enough to mount a title challenge next season. And then also look at the whole Andreas Christensen impact and what happens, with Silva coming back. Does he get dropped, or does he replace any of the other two in the likes of Azpilicueta and Rudiger? So, guys, let's start straight away with the Jorginho conversation. I'll go to you, RJ, first up. I know you've got the Italian heritage. I'm sure you watch a lot of Italian football as well. Jorginho, for me, I tweeted something yesterday, right? And I want to be very, very open about this. I tweeted something saying that I don't want the fan base to be fooled with the whole lone DM and attacking eights, and get fooled in the sense that Jorginho and Kovacic are bad players. They're not bad players. They just didn't suit that style of lone DM and attacking eights. None of them are lone DMs or attacking eights. And I don't even think Kante is a lone DM or attacking eight. So, all the three different options that we have probably didn't suit that style. And I went on to say that it's great to see that Thomas Tuchel has come in, realized how to get the best out of them, and reverted back to what is more suited to the players that he has. And there was mixed reactions. Some sort of said, yeah, it's great to see that Thomas Tuchel has noticed that, and he's trying to get the best out of these players. But moving forward, maybe they're not the answer. And then there were also people that said, no, that is the best way to utilize them. And there were also others, another portion that were completely against it, and were saying that they don't trust Jorginho, they don't rate that Kovacic and Jorginho sort of pivot 6-6 combination. RJ, I want to start with you with some basic conversation. First of all, he is rated so highly in Italy. Why?
He is rated very highly, and what I will say about my fellow countrymen is that what he's renowned for is his intelligence, and that's the way back in Italy. It's not all about the brawn and about the physicality, because that's not what the Serie A is about. It's about the tactical battles. It's about using the intelligence of, if you know where to be at the right time, it's not necessarily about having to rely on your physical attributes as much as what you would see in the Premier League. So that's not to say that you don't need those qualities, but what it is saying is that if you have the basic understanding and know where to be at the right time, then you won't have to always necessarily default to being the physical superior athlete like a Kante, for example. But I can understand why with people like Jorginho, and I think this is where managers like Tuchel really appreciate his value, is that he's someone that effectively can translate their vision without necessarily having to yell every second of the game, because they have a little bit of faith that he can see the game 2 or 3 passes ahead of time. And that's a very invaluable thing for a manager, because it essentially means it's one less thing for them to have to worry about on that aspect of the pitch, because he gets it and doesn't need to be told every single thing and be handheld like some other midfielders who they might be blessed physically, but they just don't understand the inherent aspects that a manager is actually demanding of them. But being balanced here and being your show the other side of the coin, I'm someone that's very much in the camp of I'm having my reservations or cautiously optimistic in the Kovacic pivot. And why I say that, and we discussed this on this pod, the Balanced Blues Brothers, yesterday, is that really the Kovacic pairing has come in recently under Tuchel against teams that are not necessarily taking us to the sword, but also at the same time, you could argue that the system itself is giving them that insurance and protection to allow them to express themselves more freely. Sure. So look, to be honest with you, I've been very impressed with the way they have gone about their business, but I do think there is a question of, has the back three given them that protection, which I would say yes, but has that extra protection to allow them to express themselves more freely come at a trade-off of perhaps diminishing some of our more attacking impetus up front? Because as you know, we're not scoring as much and not creating as many goal-scoring opportunities due to final third decision-making. Yeah. But I have to say, been very, very happy with what I'm seeing so far. But the next couple games, guys, that's going to be a really more of a telltale sign as to whether or not this is more of a long-term thing or a tactical fix.
Now, very well said. I really like how you said, RJ, about he's like a manager's eye in the midfield, where, as you said, he's not someone who needs to be yelled at what needs to be done. He gets it. He knows exactly what the manager wants, and he basically implements that in the game. I really like that that sort of perspective. As you said, there are other physically talented players or skills-wise much talented, but they may not always understand the game very well, and needs the yelling, needs the sort of where you need to be, what you need to do, which is very important. We tend to forget that sometimes some of these players, they may be great, but they need the guidance in the game to know what to do. I want to continue with this conversation. Taron, RJ said something really, really important right at the end in terms of we perhaps are sacrificing a more attacking outlet when we're playing with the double pivot of Jorginho and Kovacic, because let's face it, they're not really producing the goals and assists, although I tend to think Kovacic misses out on a lot of assists, because we are not clinical enough. From your point of view, I want to ask you this question, Taron. Do you feel that, and I've seen this floating around in social media quite a bit, do you feel it's really up to those two players to constantly get goals and assists for us? Because I feel like we are hitting the byline with the formation that we're playing. Yes, we're playing 3 at the back. Yes, it protects the likes of Kovacic and Jorginho, and it not just them, it actually protects themselves. The centre backs, when they play 4 at the back, they're not really comfortable. And I completely understand what RJ said about that. The 3 at the back and the 2 is a good formation for the set of players we have now. But we get enough opportunity to attack with our wing backs, to attack with our 10s, the striker. We get into really dangerous positions, but we're just not clinical enough. So do you blame Kovacic and Jorginho for this, or do you kind of blame the forward pack not being clinical?
Well, for me, I think it's all about the tactics. I don't think that Kovacic and Jorginho have the role in this team to get the goals and assists. Maybe Jorginho can make some more daring passes to Hudson-Odoi in between the lines against Atletico, who at left back, they were a bit short yesterday with Thomas Lemar, who's not really known to be a defensive left back. So if Jorginho maybe could pick out that ball in between the lines, it would be nice. But for me, it is down to tactics. With this system, we see that the 3 tend to sit, unless Aspi and Rudiger like to go forward, and the 2 sit in front of defence, and their sole position in the team is to win the ball back on transition, to prevent the counter attack, and to quickly counter press so we can create another attack. We don't really see that Kovacic goes into the box very often. We see with the cutbacks that Werner's in the box, maybe the left winger who's in the box, someone else in the box, Alonso's in the box. But I think the tactics of Kovacic and Jorginho are to just sit there, control the play, recycle possession, and spray out to the wing backs to create another attack. If maybe they were told by Tuchel to get into the box, we would see Kovacic making late runs, which we haven't really seen. And if he was told to, he would have made late runs, got into the box, maybe had a few more shots. Because let's face it, most of Kovacic's shots are from outside the box that don't really go in. If Kovacic could improve on these long shots in these exact tactics, I think it would be great. Because if we could test the keeper a bit more for long range with our DMs who tend to sit there, it'll be great. We've seen Jorginho; he can hit bangers. We've seen against Fulham a few years ago. He got the ball from outside the box and hit a bottom corner past Bettinelli. He has it in his locker. We all know Kovacic is a baller. He has it in his locker to hit good shots and to test the keeper. But we see that there's almost some cautiousness in the play to maybe their job is solely told by Tuchel, do not lose the ball. We need to keep it. Play it to the forward players. Play it to our attackers. We play in a 3-2-5 with the wing backs going forward and them attacking the box. The centre mids don't tend to do much in the attacking third, in my opinion. And if maybe later on we get another player that can get in, such as Zakaria, who's a tank in both boxes, but also can do the passing, the defensive work that Jorginho does with more on top, I think will be lethal, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's solely down to tactics and what they're being told to do at the minute.
No, 100%. This is interesting. I need to point this out. Escort, thank you for this particular comment. What resurgence from Jorginho? Come on, lads. This is exactly the type of comment that we need in this particular show, just to give a different perspective and talk about all sorts of avenues. RJ, let's talk about this before we move on to the whole Kovacic situation and then Kante and then looking at them as a whole package. For me, Escort seems like someone who probably just doesn't feel like Jorginho is providing us any sort of benefit in the team, judging by that particular comment, right? The way I look at it, RJ, is that Thomas Tuchel has decided in his mind for this particular season. I'm not talking about down the track. I'm not talking about next season or how he's going to evolve. I think he's come in and he's made a snapshot decision that I need to change something because something wasn't working for the month of December and January. So in order for me to change it, he made a snapshot decision that looked at the team, went with 3 at the back because it gives us further protection because none of our CBs besides Thiago Silva is well assured in defense. They always have some sort of issues. He looked at that we were getting dominated in midfield for the month of December and January, and he saw that I want to hold more possession. I don't want to give possession away to the opposition. I want to hold more possession. And I want to ensure that in midfield that we don't get dominated at all, that we control the ball. And as Taron said, maybe we're not producing enough goal-scoring opportunities, perhaps next season with maybe newer defensive midfield players. We possibly could. Someone, as Taron said, someone like Zakaria, who's probably best go on both sides. But right now, he's probably decided that I need the assurance. Do you believe that's probably why he's utilizing someone like Jorginho? Because he's someone, I feel like he's a glue in the middle where the centre-backs, when we build up, because we want to build up, right? We want to play the build-up game. He's a reference point for all of these players. Whenever they don't have an option, they rely on Jorginho, and Jorginho can find the one-touch pass and move the ball along. He controls the tempo. If it needs to be raised, he raises it. If it needs to be sort of, conservative, he keeps it. Is that how you see Jorginho's role right now under Tuchel?
Yeah, so I think a few comments there. Like you said, Tuchel came in at a time when it was obviously very turbulent. There was a lot of instability in both aspects of play, and a natural reaction for a manager to come in is really try to solidify the back. And obviously one of those strategies is to deploy that back 3 or back 5 until you can get some trust in that you can withstand the pressure of teams coming at you. And I think the luxury of playing that more pragmatic approach is then it does allow you to utilize the brain's trust in someone like Jorginho, because let's face it, and I'm a Jorginho fan to a certain extent because of my background, but what I do think is you can get away somewhat of his physical limitations because of that insurance. But I think Tuchel's recognised that, let's really tighten things at the back, tick. After that, what we can do is we can find someone to help partner him that has a better understanding of his strengths. So I think when you look at the combinations, I think someone like Kovacic and Jorginho have more telepathy and chemistry, and I think that's a very big talking point and a pro on that side of things. But also the one advantage I would say that he has over someone like one of my favourite players, Kante, is that Kante, as you know, he's just indefatigable. He's like Mount. He's a work engine. Yeah. He doesn't have a sense of just staying put. And that sense of not staying put and trying to chase left back, right back, the manager off the pitch, someone like Jorginho is going to have that discipline, positional awareness. And even though he will get passed often by defenders or midfielders because he's not so fast, what he does do is at least he's able to communicate and roughly be in the right area and help initiate the counter press. And he's very good coordinating his midfield partners and really linking the left, right, as well as the defence. So I think Tuchel's recognised his intelligence, positional awareness, having that insurance behind him. It's enough pros to outweigh the cons of his physical limitations. That said, though, what I am looking to see from Jorginho is if you're going to have that extra insurance behind you, I want you to be a little bit more daring and progressive, a little bit. Obviously, we just spoke about his pros being the positional awareness, but what I would want to see is that his passes, the more progressive passes he makes, needs to fine-tune them ever so slightly, because against Atletico, there were a couple opportunities where he just overcooked it. Yeah. And it could have been, we could have had a couple of more goals, guys.
100% agreed, RJ. Honestly, that was so well said and so well described as to why we're using Jorginho and the likes of Kovacic and why sometimes Kante is missing out in recent times. This is a really good comment, which kind of resonates off the back of what you said, RJ. I hope Jorginho would find some Cesc Fabregas magic portion and turn into super midfield maestro. Look, you're absolutely right, Surajit. I think Jorginho, had he had that level of caliber of passes, the kind of ones that Cesc Fabregas had, that just elevate him to a different level. I think he does have it in the locker as well. We've seen it under Sarri's season. There were a lot of times where he's created some magnificent passes, but just never ended up being a goal, which once again goes down to not being clinical. So let's now move on to Taron about Kovacic and why this combination of Kovacic and Jorginho is working at the moment. RJ has mentioned another point in his statement that a lot of teams are not possibly coming at us. And many of the fans have said that as well, but RJ has also talked about we're counter-pressing. I think the caliber of teams that we've played, yeah, sure, they're not the top of the range caliber besides Atletico Madrid and Spurs. But I feel like this two combination of Kovacic and Jorginho, not only they're very comfortable in holding the position, which all of us can agree, but they are counter-pressing along with Mason Mount. I believe Mason Mount is someone who charges that from the get-go, and then Kovacic and Jorginho goes in with it. I feel like as soon as we lose the ball, we get the ball back much quicker as well now. So it kind of looks like the opposition is sitting back when in essence they want to come out, but it just looks like they're sitting back because we win the ball back so quickly in their half. Do you agree with the statement that we haven't had any team that has come at us yet, or do you feel we've kind of contributed that as well by counter-pressing, especially with the likes of Kovacic and Jorginho and Mason Mount?
To some extent, I do agree that we haven't had the teams to really attack us yet. Atletico Madrid, a few times that when we passed to Rudiger, they'd press us really high, as we saw when Azpilicueta passed a bit too hard to Mendy and nearly gave it to Suarez or Llorente, whoever it was at that stage. But yeah, with the teams we played so far, I'd say the most attacking team, the most attacking system we've played is probably Southampton. And I was a bit shocked by Southampton. Now, they didn't really come out all blocks, considering they'd lost, I think, 6 Premier League games in a row. Yeah. They tended to sit back most of the game instead of, but they did come at us and they did press us high to win the ball back from Marcos Alonso, I believe, who played it straight to Minamino, who scored. So I think that with the system that we're playing now, it really suits Kovacic and Jorginho. Last season, we saw them two at the start of the season in a 4-2-3-1 as a pivot. But when they lose the ball, it's a lot more open at the back, and we can concede. The most renowned game I can remember that is Valencia away, where every time we conceded the ball, then I literally looked at the high line. We were getting exposed because of the lack of pace in midfield. But with the three at the back, I'd say that there's more space. The three don't really tend to go forward like the Kante three at the back. But when we lose the ball, there's space to cover the pace in between the lines. And yeah, as I mentioned before, with the formation we play right now, we play a 3 and a 2, and then the wing backs tend to go forward. So it does look like the opposition are trying to get forward. But as soon as they break out and they win the ball back, bam, Kovacic and Jorginho are there to win the ball back, and start another attack, recycle possession, as I mentioned, start a counter-attack, and we're attacking again. The only thing I'd like to see from Kovacic is more of what he did with Olivier Giroud in that game, in that one instance where he received it. Instead of going out wide, playing the simple pass back to Aspi, back to Rudiger, he went central. He played it to Giroud, who Hazard has come out. We all know he's probably one of the best target man strikers in the world. Played it into him. And just the extra second, he could have played to Giroud and then attack. Because if Kovacic can get in more of these positions, he has the ability to drive at defenders. Almost, dare I say, an Eden Hazard type balance and agility of gliding past players. And he has a lot of upper body strength as well. And I'm surprised that, not to bring it back, again, I do in the Frank Lampard a lot, but as one of the best attacking goal scorers in midfield of all time, I was expecting Mateo Kovacic to become a goal scoring midfielder, such as we've seen Ilkay Gundogan, as I mentioned on my Maris Fisher podcast, that Gundogan has become an attacking midfielder this year. From last year, I think he got 1 goal and 2 assists. This season, 11 goals and 2 assists. He's become a monster. And I'm excited that under Tuchel that maybe he can make him into an attacking DM and try and attack both boxes, be more clinical and play the final pass right sometimes. We saw against Spurs, he got the ball in the final third. I think it was a 4-on-2 or something. Mount, Hudson and Odoi were all forward and he couldn't decide whether to shoot or cross. And unfortunately, it went out for a goal kick. But with Kovacic, I really have a lot of belief that with the system we're playing now, if we can continue, he seems to have a lot more space with Jorginho always behind him to cover him. The 3 centre-backs to kind of push in. The wing-backs are there to support as well. Kovacic needs to take more risks. And for him to cement his position in this team for the next 4 to 5 years, which I think he could, because I think he's a class player, obviously played the season last year. If he can cement his place in this team and improve his goals and assists, then next to a player that maybe can do more than Jorginho. I'm not saying I have anything against Jorginho, but maybe sometimes he's a bit limited with what he does, maybe like a Joshua Kimmich or something. Then I think that Kovacic can be a class player in the future, and I'm really hopeful for Kovacic.
No, very good point, and I want to continue with that sort of point to RJ. But quickly, shout out to Thompson Jones. Thank you, my man, for joining. We cannot judge Chelsea after playing Atletico and Spurs. We can only see how well the team is doing after the United, Liverpool, and Everton games. These games will define our season. Hopefully, we win. Look, completely understand, Thompson, and I get your point of view. I'm just seeing a lot of these type of comments in the social media as well. I feel like, let's just say, argument's sake, that we do come out of United, Liverpool, and Everton without any loss, and we get maybe a win or a couple of wins, maybe a draw there. I mean, what happens then? Are we going to set a new bar for these players again, Jorginho and Kovacic? For me, it feels like these guys never get enough praise. They've just been given an image that, you know, they're not good enough. The way they were sort of utilized previously, it just makes me feel that fans have just fixated that in their mind frame that these guys are not good enough. So, yeah, like I just hope that after United, Liverpool, and Everton, and if we do come out from it positively, that they do get the rightful praise. I'm pretty sure these players, Jorginho and Kovacic, probably will mostly feature in some of these games, and Kante will probably come in if we go ahead, or there could be a game here where Kante plays from the beginning, but we're yet to see that. RJ, I do want to continue about the whole Kovacic. Lots of comments come out, and it just gets me so annoyed when they say, oh, but what does Kovacic do? What does he really provide? What's he good for? You know, all he does is just dribble, and it just has nothing. RJ, honestly, in the match against Newcastle, especially, that's the one that I can remember, because I know there was 2 clear-cut opportunities where he put in a ball for Timo Werner, dinked it over the top, and Werner just smashed it when really he should have finished that. And there was another opportunity, I can't really remember who the player was, and that was another clear-cut opportunity for us to score, and he lost 2 proper chances of assists there. And there's been many other instances where he's missed on assists. Yes, Taron is right. He does get into sometimes really good shooting positions just outside the box, but his shooting technique is not good enough. There was, I think, an opportunity against Spurs, I believe, where he took a shot outside the box and it fizzed through and it just sort of missed the bar, missed the goals. It just went just outside. And I agree, his shooting ability has to improve. But do you feel that he does get hard done by at times, that when he puts in the really, really good balls, that it doesn't get into the back of the net enough?
Yeah, I think it's hard done by recently. But what I will say is I love our Croatian sensation. I've been a big Kovacic fan for a long, long time, even in his Inter days, because I'm an Inter fan. But I also, and I think it's fair, we all demand high expectations of him, given we know the quality he has. And let's be clear about something. His role isn't necessarily to go and get those cold, hard numbers. But given we know he can do it, I think there's just a sense of, well, we know you can deliver it. And especially now you've been given more license to get forward and play more progressive. We really want to see you start adding that to your locker, because we know you can pull it out. And I don't know, like for me, I see him and sometimes I get a Jekyll and Hyde moment throughout the games. Yeah. Because for one instance, we see the trickery, we see the immense speed and acceleration for him to dribble past opponents. It's almost Hazard-esque at times, and I don't use that term lightly. But when we see him get in and around those danger areas, or when he fizzes a pass just too hard, or like you said, he is sometimes a bit hard done by when players don't take advantage of the good openings he creates. But then there's times, and I know you guys will remember these certain games, where he's in and around the box or he's in that danger zone and he overthinks it. Just have a shot. You're close enough. You're good enough. Why don't you back yourself? You know what I mean? You're not, with all due respect, players like Rudiger who back themselves that perhaps maybe that wasn't the best option. So I think it comes back to Tuchel's broader point that our decision-making in the final third sometimes really needs to be honed in on, because players like Kovacic, really, the sky's the limit for these kinds of players, especially because they're entering his peak year. So if he could just add that confidence to his game and don't be over intricate. Sometimes you can be, because you've got to break down that bank of 4 or bank of 6. But then there's times it's an actual opening to have a shot. So let's just be a little bit more self-believing and add those to your game. Because I think once he starts doing that, the narrative around Kovacic will be, he's a good player that adds value and has potential, but he's just not quite cementing his place to a player that's almost indispensable. So that's the difference for me.
No, very well said, man. I'm just hoping that under Thomas Tuchel, let's see how it all develops. Maybe we can probably see, goals being added. Kovacic has scored goals last season, some key goals. I remember there was a goal against Valencia last season that was very, very important. There was another goal from outside the box. Can't remember which team it was.
Against Everton, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was Everton. So he can do that. Taron, I want to continue this whole Kovacic conversation. I just want to shout out Sergey. Thanks for joining, my man. I have noticed this particular comment, and I do want to talk about it. It's a very important comment. Do you guys think Kante would be good fit against the quick United counters instead of a Jovic pair? I do want to address this as soon as we talk about Kante, which will be very soon. So, we will address this. But Taron, just quickly, about the whole Kovacic situation. I feel like I've seen Kovacic and Jorginho, and I've seen Kovacic and Kante, right? I feel like when Kovacic and Kante is playing, Kovacic's game kind of gets compromised a little bit, because Kante has a tendency to drive forward, which is fine because that's his natural sort of instinct kicking in, that he wants to run and chase and, seek and destroy and win the ball back. And then it sort of compromises Kovacic's game in the sense that he feels that he needs to sort of stick deep a little bit, like he just needs to be more disciplined. And it kind of takes that ability away from him, where he loves to play, deep, win, get the ball, be press resistant, beat players, drive through the middle and really surge forward and then look for those passes. I feel when he's playing against Jorginho, when he's playing with Jorginho, he's in his element. They're always interlinking, 1-2 passes, opening the midfield out, and before you know, the space opens up. Whereas when it's Kante, I've seen how he hasn't been that effective throughout the match, and then sometimes gets taken off in the second half for either Jorginho or whoever else. We saw that against Southampton, where Kante played really well. Kovacic was decent, not the greatest. Then he got hooked off in the second half, and then someone like Jorginho came in. Do you feel that way, or do you think that Kante Kovacic is a good pivot as well?
Yeah, I'm going to look at this from both sides of the coin. In fact, just to go for the channel name, I think that for the fact in the Southampton game that maybe there was a bit of overzealousness to go forward and leave that space at the back. But here's my point about this. I feel like almost with fullbacks, you see when teams have two attacking fullbacks, if they're maybe in a system where one of them goes back and one of them goes forward, then that's how they like to play, with maybe one fullback going forward. In this system with Kante and Kovacic, I feel like it could work. If Kovacic can be as daring as he wants to be, but Kante, instead of going and searching and destroying, maybe holds back. And the same way around. Kovacic can hold back and Kante can go and search and destroy. I feel like this does have potential to work, but obviously I still believe that Kovacic is better next to a Jorginho, someone who can dictate the play, maybe help him on where to be in the better positions to maybe present the huge gap that we saw against Southampton, which caused the really silly goal that we conceded. But yeah, I think that Kovacic maybe has it in his head, because he's such a good team player, we've seen before, that he doesn't want to commit and leave huge space behind the lines if Kante decides to go forward. As we saw earlier in the season, teams could just drop in, receive the ball, and they'd have so much space to play when Kante was a lone DM and Kovacic was beside him. But yeah, last season as well, when Kante and Kovacic came back, I think it was like December, the Southampton, Bournemouth, Arsenal run of games, that there was errors in those games. I felt like there was a huge shift in the way we kept possession and a huge shift in the way we were pressing with the play. As I said before, Jorginho and Kovacic, their main aim is to press the play and to keep the ball and recycle possession, play out wide and do this and that. But obviously, like I said before, with Kante and Kovacic, it does have a lot of potential to work, and I feel like it could. They're both good players, and obviously Kante is a World Cup winner, a double Premier League winner, and he's been one of my favourite players at Chelsea for years. And he doesn't have all them trophies, and for no reason. He's a world-class player, and next to a player like Paul Pogba, he won the World Cup. Next to a player like Kovacic, who can be similar to Paul Pogba with the way he plays, he's silking us on the ball. We've seen him ping balls out wide really well, Kovacic, and he does have an attacking threat when he comes to it. He can drive at players, he can take players on, he can commit players, take up 3 or 4 players at a time with his press resistance. But I feel like with Jorginho, he tends to hold play and play it to Kovacic, who knows that he's going to stay all the time. He doesn't have that worry in his brain where he thinks, I need to stay back. I can't risk a counter-attack happening. So he just goes into his A game, which is driving at players, being press resistant. Yeah. But if Kovacic can work on his ball in the final third, then any drill is going to work. I feel like if Kovacic can just drive forward and work on his final pass under Thomas Tuchel a little bit more, he's worked with players such as Mario Götze, Nuri Sahin, Julian Weigl. He's worked with some great midfielders before. So I feel like if Kovacic can work on his game, he'll be a great player next to anyone. And I'm really excited to see what Kovacic can do, because like RJ said, he's a great player and he's our Croatian maestro.
No, absolutely agree. RJ, let's now talk about N'Golo Kante. We are nicely building with us from Jorginho to Kovacic, and now the main man, N'Golo Kante. And then we're going to sort of put together what combination works. Massive shout out to Amara Jiwa. Hopefully, I keep pronouncing this so poorly. Can I just call you Amar? I think if that's okay with you, Amar, that would be the best way to go forward, because you always turn up and you always support this channel. But I think this commentary, if Kante cannot get into the side against Man U, then he has no future with Chelsea. Let's explore this. I don't think it's that he doesn't have a future. I think he actually does have a future, which we will get to next season talks in this particular episode. RJ, with the whole N'Golo Kante thing, as Taron said, multiple Premier League winner, World Cup winner. But when I look at those characteristics, you look at the 2 times that he's won the Premier League. One with Leicester alongside Danny Drinkwater, and Leicester were predominantly a counter-attacking team in that particular season. Let's face it, we all remember Mahrez and Jamie Vardy up front creating havoc, with the likes of Danny Drinkwater and Kante sort of sitting as double pivots, and Kante would seek and destroy and release Mahrez and Vardy, and that's how they really got to teams, because most teams tried to play the game against them, and the counter-attacking football was perfect for Claudio Ranieri in that season, and they had the perfect players to execute that. You look at the season where he won the league with us, once again he had Matic predominantly, or sometimes Cesc Fabregas. Once again, under Antonio Conte, we were predominantly a counter-attacking team. We were also attacking at times for lower table teams, but predominantly against the bigger teams, we were counter-attacking. We will have a solid defense under Antonio Conte, allow teams to come in and then really break and get them. The perfect scenario was that Man City game, how we beat them 3-1 after being a goal down. We all remember the likes of Diego Costa, Eden Hazard, and Willian scoring. That highlights package is all over football Twitter. And that kind of defines exactly what was going on in that particular season. And also with France, I don't think France were absolute possession-based football team in the World Cup. They also relied a lot on sort of counter-attacking sort of style. Yes, they did play possession as well, but mostly, I remember the game against Belgium. Belgium had all of the ball, whereas France was sort of allowing them to just you control. So do you see a trend happening where Kante is best suited in his element? Do you feel that possession-based football, when he has to touch the ball a lot and when he has to make those little passes and just, control the tempo, that's probably not his type of football?
Yeah, I think the nuance is probably at the word end, tempo, because I think for me, and I said this earlier, and I'm happily share it all over Twitter and the rest of the social media community, I'm a big Kante fan. I love what he embodies. I think he's someone that's a very team first kind of player and someone that's going to give you straight 7s or 8s each game. I think he's been someone that he can, what I like about him in particular is, apart from his humility and, his personal attributes, I think he's someone that helps very subtly, allows others to flourish through his hard work. Through the pure mileage he covers throughout each game, what that does intangibly is it allows others to restore their energy and use it more productively in an attacking sense. Where I do think with Kante, though, and perhaps unfairly, given that he's such a humble guy, is that I think with him, the commentary around him just being purely not a defensive-minded player, but a singular dimensional type player, i.e. seek and destroy, it's not I would probably counter press that in a way and say he actually has a lot to his game. I think he's quite underneath the bonnet or the hood. He's actually fundamentally a good football player. I think he does have a touch on him. I think he does like to get on the ball, but whether or not he likes to control the tempo as someone like a Jorginho, let's say, I don't think that's his natural game. I just think he's someone that likes to gravitate towards the ball. And unfortunately, that inner instinct of gravitating towards the ball inadvertently creates those spatial issues in between the lines. And I think sometimes it's a trade-off for the manager, because on one hand, if you'd have 5 or 6 Kantes, you're probably winning the quad each year just because of you are there putting too much pressure on the opposition. But on the other hand, it can quite limit your game, and especially in transition, if you start having these players that start deviating too far and wide, you're creating a lot of open space, and that's where the issues start to arise. So I do think he's someone that, and look, he's come in recently. The context is when Tuchel came in, he wasn't 100% fitness, so he couldn't even road test him out from the beginning. So that's scenario number one. Number two is the Kovacic pair was working while to allow Kante to easily get himself back into the squad. So I think in many respects, I'm not sure I fully agree with if he's not playing against United, he has no future, because we do have a big block of games coming up. And let's also remember against Atletico, Jorginho is suspended, so you can basically almost guarantee he's going to be the one filling in.
Oh, for sure.
So I just think, he's got plenty left to offer. Does he control the tempo as good as Jorginho? I'd probably argue not. That said, I still think he has a lot of value to add, and I still think that he's someone that he's purely more than a seek and destroy kind of player, and someone that actually adds a lot of value on both sides of the pitch.
Yeah, no, once again, so well said, RJ. And I want to continue with this theme with Taron now. It is true. I think we are now, we've sort of gone away from, him, Kante playing as the right centre mid and thinking that, he's an attacking 8, to now we're now the narrative is becoming that he's seek and destroy. I think I'm sort of fixated in that in my mindset as well. And so well said by RJ that he is a lot more than that. It's true. But it's what you also mentioned, Taron, that in order to get the best, everything out of Kante, all the things that RJ just mentioned, I know you've mentioned Kovacic could be that partner for him, but I personally don't think either Jorginho or Kovacic allows him to be at his absolute best, all the attributes that we want to see from Kante. I feel like this is why we are probably in the market, probably not in this next summer, because at the moment we're looking at a striker or a defender, well, striker and a defender. We're not. There was talks about Declan Rice, but we've sort of deviated away from that. Do you feel like down the track, maybe someone like a Marquinhos, or we've been linked with Declan Rice as well, that someone of that kind of caliber of a defensive midfield, or Zakaria, as you said, or anyone else? There's plenty of defensive midfielders out there. You go to French League One, there's plenty of defensive midfielders out there. Do you feel that Kante needs a defensive player in that caliber to get the best out of him? Or do you think, or you're sticking with the fact that Kovacic can still be that particular player that allows Kante to be that?
Yeah, I think that Kante is an extremely versatile player. We've seen him play in many systems at Chelsea so far. Obviously, a double pivot under Conte, under Sarri as a right centre mid, box to box. Bissouma, good player. Yeah. And under Lampard, I wanted to get into this. We've seen him as a lone six, and it looked like Lampard was trying to maybe mould Kante into someone who does dictate the tempo as well in his game, because he seems to be a player who learns things quite quickly under Sarri. We saw a complete different player than last season. And Kante was a good player in that system under Sarri as well. We helped out Jorginho, who's good with the likes of Loftus-Cheek, Barkley and Kovacic. But for Kante to succeed, I've come to it before, and I think it's the best. He's next to a DM who can sit, like a Nemanja Matic, like a Danny Drinkwater. And I will get into this. I think that it's quite outlandish to say, but I think next season, extend Ethan Ampadu, that could really help. Because Ethan Ampadu is a physical player who likes to dictate the tempo. He doesn't like to go forward that much, unless the run against Bruno Fernandes that we saw at Old Trafford. But he likes to kind of sit in front of the defence, control everything, and let the other players flourish. As we've seen at Sheffield United, in a pretty bleak season for them, he's probably been their standout performer this season, which is great to see. Next to a more physical player, Kante is superb. And if we do need to buy a DM, I've always said, Lampard or not, Declan Rice is the man that we need to go for. He's a player that can defend, who can play those daring passes, who can be box to box, be physical, and let other players flourish. And whether it's Ampadu or Rice, Kante will be better next to in a double pivot. Tuchel's come out and said as well that in a press conference that Kante is a double six. He's suited to a double six, that he can play it as a lone six, maybe not as effective. We did see in a few games, such as the Burnley game, that if you pass him, he's maybe a little bit more mobile than Jorginho, so he can go forward and control the play from more forward. But again, we did raise the question before on Football Twister, maybe before I was so apparent on it, that Kante, when he's pressed, maybe not as good as Jorginho. Jorginho is a really intelligent player, and he seems to calculate every ounce of the game before he receives the pass, before he makes the pass. An example of that is when Joao Felix was doing that overhead kick, I saw Jorginho put his foot exactly in a position where if Joao Felix would have hit that overhead kick and it would have gone on target, Jorginho would have blocked it. But you saw as soon as he kicked it, Jorginho had no expression on his face. He knew that he sorted it out. So maybe Kante doesn't have that in his game, but we saw in the games like Arsenal away, Man City, that maybe a team that likes to come onto him, he's not the best as a lone six. And I really want to see Kante as in the double six under Tuchel. He can counter press, he can go forward. But I need to raise a question about Kante, that when he likes to counter press, maybe it's not as organised as the likes of Jorginho and Kovacic, who know exactly when to be with their football intelligence. Obviously, I agree that with RJ that Kante is an incredibly intelligent player, that he knows where to be, when to be. But there is some instances where he tends to roam a bit too far up the pitch, maybe man marking like Bednarek at Southampton.
Bro, sometimes Kante's in the box. I've noticed sometimes he's in the box, and I'm like, what are you doing, my man?
He has the pace. He has the pace to get back in and to stop it. But he's not Usain Bolt. He can't get forward and counter press as quickly. But yeah, I love Kante. You know, every time I see him in training, I just want to give him a big hug, give him a big handshake, and just all the things like that. I think Kante's a superb guy, superb player, and I hope he can flourish next season with the likes of Ampadu or Rice.
No, 100% well said, Taron. RJ, let's just wrap up the whole Kante thing, because I want to talk about the combination and then Andreas Christensen at the end as well. Do you think there's a pattern happening here. What Tuchel is doing, I think that was a very good comment from Baggy. Shout out to Baggy TV, man. That was a really good comment. Where if it's not broke, let's not fix it. Do you feel that? Yeah, there's the pattern that I'm talking about is most of the times, Jorginho and Kovacic are the ones that have started, and if you've noticed, whenever we've gone up 1-0 against Atletico Madrid, we went up against Spurs, we went up. Then he took either Kovacic off or Jorginho. I think most of the time, both the times he took Kovacic off and he deployed Kante because Kante gives more of a defensive, solid sort of structure when the teams are coming at us and they want to try and force an equalizer. Do you feel that's where Thomas Tuchel at the moment feels that's the best way to put Kante in the team right now, in the sense that because we don't have the best partner for Kante, that he's better suited when the teams are coming at us so that he can do his defensive job, intercept, and win the ball back quickly, because he's not really starting that much at the moment with for Thomas Tuchel. Do you see there's a pattern happening here that he's more relied when we've gone ahead and we want to defend?
Yeah, it's a really good point by Baggy TV, and I think I kind of alluded to that. If it's not broken, I sort of don't need to worry about fixing it. And I think that meritocracy theme's sort of staying true at the moment, Tuchel, to an extent, because we have been playing well with the core group of players. And for someone, I think there's also what I'd like to add. There's an element of improved game management here, because as we saw prior to Tuchel, how many times did we see situations where we're in front and we've foregone a lead frustratingly at the end? So I think someone like Kante, given that the Kovacic pairing's working from the start, and I will caveat that against teams that perhaps aren't really putting us to the press, but how good is it if you're Tuchel that you can call on someone like Kante to come in to relieve the good work for the first 60 or 70 minutes that Kovacic has done, and you bring him in alongside a guy who's going to help basically be like another manager on the pitch and make sure that you're going to be able to utilize the energy and work rate and athleticism of a fresh Kante against tiring legs, against those that are coming against you, but also have Jorginho having that positional awareness to help utilize that strength and freshness of a Kante. Do I think that this is a longer term solution? Not necessarily, but for now it is working, and I think it's also getting the best out of all three at the moment. But we'll see. I'm actually quite intrigued because we've got a few big games coming up, and I dare say that we will see probably Kante starting at least one or two of these. It's just Tuchel's probably got a few little tricks up his sleeves, and I'm quite happy to trust him at the moment.
No, well said. Well said. Very, very quick fire answer from both of you guys. Let's go with Taron. Which pivot right now do you feel that Thomas Tuchel completely believes in? I think it could be a straightforward answer here. We can all probably agree that it'll probably be Kovacic and Jorginho, because Thomas Tuchel wants to hold the ball and probably they're the best pivot. But the question that I want to have, and a quick fire answer from you guys, can this combination actually mount a title challenge next season? First of all, to Taron.
To be completely honest, so I don't think that this pivot is good enough to mount a title challenge. I think that Jorginho is a system player, and having a system player is not bad, but if things are going wrong and you maybe need to switch to a more expansive system, I feel like we need a player who can do everything, that can defend, that can attack, that can play these daring balls more often, and also be that metronome between the defense and the midfield. That if we can get a player that can do all of that and Mateo Kovacic or another player, then yes, this midfield is good enough. But right now, Jorginho and Kova, or Kante and Kova, we've seen over the years that it's not been the best pivot, and we haven't won the trophies that we'd want to win. So right now, I'd probably say that it's not quite good enough to mount a title challenge, to make it quick.
RJ, from your point of view, do you think any of this combination at the moment, as we've all agreed, Kovacic and Jorginho are the ones that are favoured because they're doing what Thomas Tuchel wants? Even with Kante, I don't think any of these combinations are probably that fantastic. But moving forward, do you feel the Kovacic, Jorginho, or even any Kante sort of combination are good enough to win the Premier League, or do we need a different type of defensive midfielder to support the case of mounting a challenge for the title, for the Premier League title?
Yeah, for me, I think the real litmus test is to see how we navigate through the rest of the season. Or in other words, like I think at the moment, it's not necessarily being fixated on one particular pairing. It's really how do we get the best out of the sum of all parts. So I think if we can navigate a pretty successful end to the season, i.e. top four, and making a deep run in some of those competitions, then that's perhaps foreshadowing that at a fresh start to the season, plus a whole off season, then why not? I don't think they are the optimal three at the moment to rotate, but let's also remember we've got other midfielders in the mix that we can call upon that might also stake their claim. You know, Ampadu plus Gilmore, of course, to come into the fold. At this present moment, to keep it short, I don't think so that they can do enough to get us a title. But again, my answer is really dependent on using the rest of the season as an assessment.
Yeah, no, well said, man. Well said. From my perspective as well, I do want to go towards what you're saying, RJ, in the sense that let's check out what happens till the rest of the season and how we sort of develop in this system. But if I was to give an answer right here, right now, I also don't think, and I agree with Taron, don't think Kovacic and Jorginho are probably good enough to mount a title challenge. They may be good right now, and this is what I've been saying in the timeline. And I don't know why some people just get into this whole habit of bashing people in social media. Just have respectful conversation. Honestly, you see me here, you see the boys here. We just human beings. We just come here and have respectful conversations. I don't see any necessity to go out there and insult if you don't like any of our takes. But yeah, like I'm more commenting off now in the sense that, someone like Kovacic and Jorginho, it works now, but down the track, I don't know how much they're going to work. Boys, let's now talk about Andreas Christensen.
Yeah, sorry, just quickly, one little minor nuance to that is we're very obviously focused on the pivot pairing because that's part of the theme of the discussion, but perhaps it's a given, but sometimes we can overlook it, particularly on social media, is that ultimately it's a team effort. So you can have the best pivot pairing, but if all the sum of the parts aren't working cohesively, good luck with your title charge. So I think we all need to be firing more cylinders. So I think that's just something for us to be mindful of as well.
So true, so true. We could have the best pivot, as you said, RJ, but if everything else is not falling into place, then it doesn't really matter. Boys, let's talk about the final segment before we wrap things up. I'll go to Taron this time. Taron, my man, Andreas Christensen, he's been so good, man. He's been so good. He's actually come out and said that he likes the three at the back situation. And he likes the confidence that Thomas Tuchel has put in on him. He said to Thomas Tuchel has pretty much said to him, mate, just be confident, be calm on the ball, be positive with the ball. I trust you to be someone in the middle and play those, passes and whatnot and build up from the back. And kudos to Andreas Christensen since Silva has been injured. He's really come in from that moment from the Spurs game when Silva got injured. I was really worried. I was like, oh my God, Christensen's going to come in. And I was really worried that we could go, backwards. But he did so well against Spurs that he continued on doing well for the consequent games. And then against Atletico Madrid, I think that was his finest performance that I've seen in recent times. Obviously, he's had some really good performance in previous seasons as well. One last season against Man City was fantastic, where we beat them 2-0. The question to you, Taron, is with Thiago Silva coming back, I mean, how harsh is it going to be to drop someone like Andreas Christensen? And if I was to ask you, does he make the team in any other position, whether it be Azpilicueta or Rudiger's spot? Do you feel that's harsh as well because they don't deserve to be dropped either?
Yeah, I think that Christensen's best in the midfield, in the middle of the midfield, not midfield, sorry, defensive three. I think that Rudiger is best as a left centre back in this system because he doesn't really have the, to be in a good way, the football intelligence to maybe cover and maybe not make mistakes in that position. But yeah, Rudiger's probably best as a left centre back. I've just been pleasantly surprised with Christensen. That I've been a critic of him in the past because which side is it? The Badgers here? This is Chelsea Football Club. We need the best players on the pitch at all time. If Thiago Silva's fit, he needs to start. How harsh it is on Christensen, it's all about results. I'm not really a sentiment player. I care about, like, when difficult decisions have been taken in the past for players, I just care about the club winning and what's going to happen. But yeah, with Christensen, I think that he is a great player, but what's stopping him from being a world-class player? I've come to this before. He is a system player. In a 4 at the back system, he seems to be a completely different player, and that's the bit nicely. In a 3 at the back, he seems to have a resurgence so far under Tuchel in this 3 at the back. I think he's been superb so far. But to maybe compare it to another player in a nice way to compare it to another player, I'm going to talk about a striker. I know it's not relevant to Christian, but Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. If you play a system like West Ham's where you're playing with a target man and you're launching balls up to him, that's not Aubameyang's game. You need to play him behind and you need to put him in behind the defense. With Christensen, if you're playing him in a position where he maybe doesn't have the right attributes to suit it, considering his pace in between the lines, pace to defend in between the lines, and other factors, he's not going to look the player he really can be. In this system, he uses his composure on the ball to play it to Jorginho to start attacks, his intelligence to read the runs of, say, Luis Suarez. And he's been throwing tests at him so far. Almiron and Sir Maximum on great form before that Newcastle game. He dealt with them. He didn't let them get in between the pockets. He didn't let them attack and cause issues to Mendy. I think it was Kepa that game, actually, sorry. So he didn't cause issues to them. He's dealt with Luis Suarez, who arguably you could say he's gotten a bit older now, 33 years old. But I mentioned it in another stream, 17 goals in the league this season. He's a serious striker. He's proved a lot of people wrong this season that he's not finished. And Christensen pocketed him. Like my Jordan trousers pocket, he's still in there. Like Christensen, he's got him. Like he's done. Like that game, sorry.
Let him out of the pocket now, bro. Let him go.
Let him go. He needs to get out. Yeah, but I thought Christensen was superb in that game, and if he can prove in a consistent run of games in the future, maybe that Tuchel will give him a chance. I don't see why he can't start more games. If Silva's maybe not in great form, even though he is crucial to our team, and Silva has made our defense go to the next level this year, Christensen does have similar attributes to Silva, and I feel like he can get there in the future. But right now, to put it completely honest, I think we do stick with Silva for the big games because he's a big mentality player. He's played in Champions League finals. He's played in World Cup semi-finals, whether it was a 7-1 loss to Germany. He still played in them, and he's played in big games. And Silva, I would start right now as he's irreplaceable. But I really hope that Christensen can keep up this good form and prove to people wrong yet again that he can be a really good centre-back in a 3 at the back system and maybe more.
Yeah, man. Look, there's no doubt Silva's going to be back. There's no doubt about that. He slots in beautifully. Again, we know what caliber of a defender he is, and he adds to that leadership sector as well, with Azpilicueta being on the right, and he's another leader at the back. RJ, there's a lot of rumours that we're going to get a defender. I think Chelsea's outright going to get a defender, and it's going to be an experienced defender. We've got Azpilicueta. We've got Thiago Silva, Rudiger, Christensen, Zouma. One, are you impressed by what you're seeing from Christensen? And two, are you worried that if he doesn't get into the team, which kind of looks like he won't, because I don't think Rudiger's getting dropped. I don't think Azpilicueta is getting dropped in this particular form that they're in. And Silva just slots back in if we continue with the 3 at the back. I think we are going to play the 3 at the back till the end of the season. There's only maybe 14 games in the Premier League left. So I don't see Thomas Tuchel changing that right now. He probably will work on that in the off season. Are you worried about this player's future? Do you think, if he doesn't get back into the team, does he stay? Or does he sort of, I feel really hard. Like, it's really a harsh situation that he's played well and he's probably going to get dropped.
You know what I like? For me, being a greedy fan, I only see upside because I like when all a bunch of players are playing good. We're club first. To me, I don't want only one player playing well. I want them all playing well and pushing each other. So as harsh as it is on the individual, us three sitting here in the millions supporting us around the world are loving this situation because we've got options. And how often have we said genuinely that we've got some great depth and options? For me, I think S. Gord mentioned before he should have named the episode the Christensen Reserve. It is I'd probably call it the Christensen Redemption. But in all seriousness, I think Taron's spot on. He suits perfectly in this back 3 system playing centrally. But as you also said, is the back 3 the way forward on a sustainable basis? That's to be determined. So with that, I think, I I was a little bit torn, but I would definitely go with Silva in the end because he's a big game player and it's the intangibles he brings as well as that leadership aspect to help give the extra 5% of those around him. But even also behind the intangibles, the guy's fundamentally an overall more polished player. He passes the ball better. He's actually a more technically stronger defender. And Christensen, as good as he's been recently, one of the question marks that remains for me is his longevity from a physicality standpoint. So I'm impressed with the way he's bounced back, and I only see the upside. But I also like to think, also another important, context thing for us to think about is that there's still plenty of games left and there's enough to go around. So I don't think with someone like Silva being at the tender age he is, he's going to be able to punch out 90 minutes each game. So if I was Tuchel, I'd be telling Christensen, mate, you've been going very well. We've got to bring Thiago Silva. You've got to accept the reality of it. But because you've been playing so well, don't you worry because you're not going to be warming the bench for too long. So I think it's about keeping that harmony going. But also for us, I'm actually less worried about our defensive options because we've also got some very good players outside. Like I think Mark Guehi's a good option to come bring into the fold next season. To be honest with you guys, and this might be controversial, and I'd be keen to get your thoughts just quickly, but I think people like Kurt Zouma is a little bit of a question mark at the moment, and I can understand why he might be a little bit nervous.
No, first of all, RJ, well said. Honestly, it's a good position to be with all of these centre-backs in good form. I've said it as well that, I'd rather have 5 centre-backs that are in good form as opposed to 2 centre-backs that are in good form. Then, you always have the options. And as you said, someone like Thiago Silva is not always going to play. So Christensen will get his game here and there, and he needs to be in top form. Now, to answer the Zouma question, and I'll go to Taron as well. First of all, from my end, I think he is in serious trouble, RJ. Sorry to say this to everyone that loves Zouma. I love Zouma a lot, man. I really, really back this guy. I believe in his qualities, but I think he's in a very serious trouble because let's just say for the back three, if for argument's sake we continue with the back three next season as well, which I highly doubt we will, I don't think he fits in the center because he doesn't have that ball playing ability. He's not someone who's comfortable to build up from the back and touch the ball that many times. He's not going to probably play on the right side of the right CB because that's really Azpilicueta. And in the future, if we do continue like that, that's probably Reece James. And in the left, Rudiger is 100% favored by Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel loves Rudiger. We need to understand some of these concepts here, whether you think it's political and all of that. There are managers that have favorites. It's okay. It's okay to say that. Frank Lampard had favorite in the sense of Mason Mount. There's no need to hide about that. It's okay. Frank trusted Mason Mount and Mason did a job for him. So it's okay to say that Frank believed and that's why he featured so many times for Frank Lampard. And similarly, I feel Thomas Tuchel really trusts Rudiger. So, I think Zouma's position, and with Christensen being the replacement of Thiago Silva, I think Zouma is in serious trouble. And as you said, RJ, in the sense of Mark Guehi, who's putting in those numbers for Swansea, they're starting to really highlight his potential. Then again, what I do want to say about Mark Guehi, I don't mind him coming back and getting an opportunity with us. If you look at the rumours, we're going for a very experienced type of defender. So I don't know how much Mark Guehi is going to get an opportunity next season. I would love to see Mark Guehi, if Swansea is promoted, to continue with the loan and then mix it up with the likes of the Premier League teams and see how he's doing against them. I would love to see Mark Guehi get that opportunity and play week in, week out if Swansea gets promoted. Even if Swansea doesn't get promoted, I would love Guehi's next progression to be a loan in a Premier League team and really test his skill set against some of the top-notch strikers in the Premier League. But yeah, as I said, I'm not against at all if Mark Guehi gets an opportunity for in Chelsea. I'm all for that. But yeah, Taron, just to answer RJ's question, which is a very, very good question. What's your thoughts on Zouma? Do you feel like there's dangers for him?
Yeah, I'll just start with looking at a comment that Mark Talks Chelsea said about Diego Costa. This chat is Diego Costa on the back. I miss the guy so much. Count on the stream soon, Mark, with me. So it's cool. See you soon, mate. But yeah, to move on to Kurt Zouma, this season, if Thiago Silva was taken out of the equation, just magically just disappeared, then Kurt Zouma by far is being our best defender. I think that he provides so much in a system that suits him. His attacking threat with corners. Under Tuchel, I realised that. I don't know what's happened with our corners now. It's just not the same anymore. And then it clocked. Kurt Zouma's not on the pitch anymore to make them shadow runs that we've seen. Silva behind Zouma, then switch run behind defenders, header in. That simple. We do miss Zouma's goals a bit, but the goals are being scored in other areas at the minute. And for us to carry on with the system with a 3 at the back, can't see Zouma coming back in. And that's the fact that Christensen or Silva had the understanding and the ball playing capability to play in that middle part. And Rudiger is obviously, like you said, Miz, really favoured by Thomas Tuchel. And we shouldn't be upset to that just because a few rumours have come about Rudiger that Aspi and Rudiger and Tammy will come out to say that aren't true. Rudiger is favoured, and to be completely honest with myself and everyone else, Rudiger hasn't put a foot wrong apart from one tiny incident. He's been superb under Tuchel so far. He literally went up to Luis Suarez. I've never seen many people do that. And then just squared up to him and said, do something, mate.
How good was that? I love that.
I've seen so many memes and I'm just like, come on. That's what I want to see from a Chelsea player. That's what I love to see. A bit of ruthlessness, a bit of fight. And Rudiger's proved that so far. Maybe isn't the best when receiving it and on his left foot, a bit slow at times. But, you know, he makes the diagonal passes, Rudiger. He is crucial. Zouma and at Southampton, again, people have said he wasn't bad, but you can't make a mistake like that in a game when you're 0-0 and completely lose concentration. It can really affect the team's performance. If we didn't get that penalty, we could have lost and maybe dropped out of the top 4 in that game with Liverpool would have won. So I think, again, to the fact that we are Chelsea FC, we need to play the players on the pitch. It doesn't matter about players' feelings in this moment at time, that we need to go and put the best 11 out. We're trying to get top 4 at the minute. We're trying to go far in the Champions League. We're trying to win the FA Cup. We need players that suit the system. In a 4 at the back, I choose Kurt Zouma all day of the week over Christensen. I think that he doesn't have as much ball playing burdens on him. It's more shared around with Jorginho, Silva, everyone else. But in that middle, you basically have all of it. You need to sweep that defense. You need to play the ball forward. You need to play it to Jorginho, Kovacic to build the play. But I'm a huge Kurt Zouma fanboy. I've really wanted him to succeed at Chelsea since that big injury against Man United. He came back and he proved himself last season. A lot of fans were saying in the first Man United game that maybe he isn't quite right for the system and that he let Rashford run him behind. He proved everyone in the Super Cup. He came on and he was great for the rest of the season. Arguably our best centre-back. But Kurt Zouma's a superb player. And if it does mean next season, if we are going to stick with this 3, then I really want what's best for Zouma. I want him to move on and go to a team where he can play in a 4 at the back. I think he can slot into Arsenal easily, at Tottenham, even at Man United. I think he's perfect for their system. I think Zouma's better than Harry Maguire, in my opinion.
I don't want him to go to a rival.
Yeah.
Oh, no. But, okay, maybe not. Yeah.
No,
but I mean, I just want to see what's best for Zouma. I think that he can play for a top club. He's a great player. That's my point. Obviously, I don't want him to be defending against Werner for Man United. But, yeah, I think that Zouma is a class player. And maybe a Barcelona or Atletico. I think that, he's a great player. And I really hope he succeeds.
No, I think he will, man. He's
got also, you know, it's another thing. Someone brought it up in the comments, and I've also thought about this as well. Unfortunately, even though I think Rudiger deserves a good shout-out as well, along with Christensen and Aspi in that back 3, the one thing we have diminished since that change in personnel is we've lost a bit of an aerial threat from those set pieces. So that is a bit of a unfortunate reality. But, unfortunately, by not having Zouma in there, you do lose a little bit of that quality or attacking threat there. Yeah.
Nah, true. But hopefully Thiago Silva, he is known for scoring as well up front. So hopefully he can carry that on. We've come close, though, a few times. Rudiger's come very close with the headers, just didn't go in. But it's a very good point once again, RJ. With Zouma taken out, you know, he's got that ability up front to dink it in. And those goals, they're very invaluable. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to end of this particular show. The live chat, once again, has been brilliant, providing such very, very good comments. I do appreciate that. So kudos to the live chat, to everyone that's joined in, and to the people that are going to see this later on. Please comment below with your thoughts and opinions on all the matters that we've talked about. Let's get in on the act and let's have a healthy discussion. Just before we go, thank you to my man, Taron, to RJ. We will be back tomorrow, same time, UK, 7 p.m. Man United preview right here on the other side of the coin. We will have the bad boy Leas from Man United to spice things up, and we're going to look at a whole heap of things. But before we go, some final words from RJ, my man.
Again, just want to say it's an absolute pleasure for me to join you again for my fellow Aussie Blue from the other side of the coin. Just want to say great discussion, Taron, buddy. I've really enjoyed it and gained a lot of insights from yourself. So much respect for the great work you do. And I suppose a quick plug, if you're not following my team, the Chelsea Social, I'd recommend it. There's some great content creators and also a couple of pods, a Premier League one I run with 2 Australian mates. It's a football thing, IFT Pod AU, and also the Balanced Blues Brothers podcast. But thanks again, Miz and Taron. Great chat and hope to do it again sometime soon.
Brilliant. And RJ, I think I had your Twitter information in the description. I will add all of those podcast stuff as well that you mentioned in the description. Guys, please follow RJ. His links are in the description right now. Follow him at least in Twitter. That way you're going to get everything, but I will have all the podcasts as well. Taron's information is all in the description as well. His podcast information is in the description. Please go ahead and follow that. But some final message from you, Taron, before we close things up.
Yeah, thanks, Miz, for having me on again. It's been a really good discussion with you guys, and the live chat's been superb today. Some really nice insights from loads of people, good opinions, and it's really made this show a lot better. And I just want to shout out RJ today. It's been a great discussion with you, mate. Hopefully I can see you on the channel again or on another channel, maybe a podcast soon. You can be on one of my podcasts. I think you have some really good opinions and you talk facts. I haven't heard you talk one thing that's not a fact so far. So it's really nice to be on. And Miz, of course, thanks for having me on as usual, mate. It's been really fun. And if you guys can take some time to maybe check out my podcast, my Twitter in the description, it'd be really nice to show me some love. I'm working quite hard on that at the minute, trying to get some content out for you guys during lockdown and other situations. So I really hope you enjoy and hope you've enjoyed my opinions today.
No, 100%, man. I'm going to back you all the way, man, Taron. I will help you out. I hope everyone helps Taron out as well. And so well said about RJ. RJ, this is why we get the best of the best in this show. I'm so glad that RJ started to feature in this particular channel. And he's going to be on here almost at least once a week throughout. There's so much football to talk about. So, it'll be great to see for everyone RJ's point of views. And hopefully, RJ can take that and grow his platform as well, wherever it is. So, guys, until next time, everyone, take care. And have a great day. See ya.